Hi, my name is ZaKaiRan, and welcome to another one of my outrageously amazing, insanely enlightening master keys of creation about how to be the unlimited source master of divine creation that you truly are to create the joy, love, well being, and abundance that you desire. You'll find tons more self empowering goodies to help you become a conscious, deliberate creator of reality on my website at ZaKaiRan.com. All right, so here we go. Who built the pyramids? Ancient civilizations, ETs, and our galactic human origins. Bum, 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 bum. All right, so here we go. Yeah, the great mystery, ancient civilizations. So, one thing that I think is really funny about humans is how they refuse to imagine that humans actually existed any more than about 5 to 10,000 years ago. But archaeologists keep finding one civilization after another buried underground, and the deeper they dig, the more they find and more ancient civilizations they discover. And even more hilarious is how humans find it so hard to imagine that there are actually not only ETs, but ETs that are more advanced than us. Whoa! When the fact of the matter is, not only is our planet billions of years old, humans and many other humanesque and non-human extraterrestrials have lived on this planet for millions of years. So where do you think all of the indigenous myths about gods visiting the earth came from? Like the Greek gods and the Norse gods and the Egyptian gods and the Mayan gods. Even in the Bible, they talk about the Nephilim, the Anunnaki, who are from the planet Nibiru. Anyway, so who were these mythological gods with apparent superpowers and long lifespans and often huge statures? Well, you guessed it, they were extra freaking terrestrials. I mean, come on, people. Get a clue. The astronomers have counted over 100 billion galaxies in our observable universe. That's just our universe. Just the observable universe. Not just 100 billion stars, but 100 billion galaxies. That means billions of stars in each galaxy, which means billions of planets. And that means billions of planets with life on them. And that means billions of different species of extraterrestrial type beings. So, who do you bloody think built the pyramids and the countless other temple structures that are strewn across our planet, made from extremely heavy, precisely cut stone blocks that were cut and placed so precisely that there's not even space between the blocks to slip a piece of paper between them? And don't insult your and my intelligence and tell me it was done by slaves. That is just complete ignorant nonsense. The stones that build most of the pyramids, the monoliths, stone circles, and temple structures around this planet were cut, transported, and placed using extraterrestrial technologies. It's so bloody obvious that it's ludicrous to imagine otherwise. If it wasn't ET tech that made them, then they would have needed massive cranes, bigger than the biggest cranes that we have ever built in our modern time. But there is not one speck of archaeological or historical evidence of anything remotely resembling a crane. There's no images of cranes in the Egyptian hieroglyphs. And they didn't fucking roll the blocks over logs. If they had, where did they get these millions of logs? Where's the archaeological remnants of these millions of logs that they needed to move these blocks to build the pyramids? And if they somehow found an entire forest or many, many, many forests to cut down to make logs, the massive blocks in the pyramids and the temples would have just crushed the logs. That idea is just more childish, ignorant nonsense. And if somehow the supposed logs actually worked and they didn't get crushed by the blocks, well, how did they get them up there? How did they get those blocks way the heck up there on those pyramids? Ramps? Hey, I've seen the math in other documentaries, and they would have had to build ramps 10 times the size of the pyramids, with absolutely millions and millions and millions of blocks, bricks, etc. And then they would have had to dismantle those ramps, which of course is more ignorant, completely unplausible, whatever it is, bullshit. I mean, the Sphinx alone has blocks in it that are so massive there is not a crane big enough on Earth to move them. All I can say is those were some pretty fucking strong slaves. I mean, they did some serious weightlifting. The Egyptian pharaohs did not even build the pyramids. They were already there long before the pharaohs. And there weren't stupid burial chambers for the pharaohs. Not one mummy has ever been found in any of the pyramids. That's because they weren't built to bury anyone. They were ascension chambers. Bum, 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 bum. They were built as a final shamanistic initiation. Well, some of them anyway. Of course, there's lots of different reasons for each structure, but at the very least, the Great Pyramid was built as a final shamanistic initiation to ascend to higher dimensions and to have multidimensional experiences within them. The pyramids are designed to connect you to the stars. They are beacons of light. They are massive stone. The massive stone blocks are designed to hold dimensional records, galactic records. So why do you think the portals in the Great Pyramid align to the Orion's belt? Well, the pyramids are 100% about connecting you or whoever goes into those pyramids to the stars and our ET ancestors who star-seeded us here on Earth many, many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago. The pyramids are about activating one's light body, aka your Ka body, for multidimensional connection to Source, your Merkaba, your light body. According to the Pleiadian agenda by Barbara Hand Clow, the Egyptians, especially from the year 3500 to about 1400 BC, Egypt was a civilization that held the Sirian from the star system Sirius. That civilization held the Sirian geometric light field open for all of its people to connect multidimensionally, to connect to their source of their origins, as it were. And people were taught how to hold their Ka, how to hold their light body in their physical bodies, to ground cosmic resonance, to ground the cosmic frequencies, to ground the source frequencies. And the geometric light field has apparently been locked back into the temple vortex system of Egypt to hold the sixth dimensional Sirian geometrical forms, which was the original template that the first Earth colonies were based upon. I'll get to that. Because the human race began in the stars, not on Earth. Bum, 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 bum. Earth is just a colony, not the origin of humanity. Activating your Ka body, your light body, is essential to achieving higher levels of awareness and to be able to ascend to higher dimensions. And the Sirian light field is referred to as the Blue Nile. And these Blue Nile Egyptians developed a system of spiritual initiations and sacred geometry that grounds starlight. This technology is built into the Egyptian pyramids, as well as René Lachateur and the Avebury Circle in England and the Teotihuacan in Mexico. These ancient civilizations that seemed obsessed with building temples all over the planet did so very specifically with very specific spiritual as well as planetary reasons, because they hold higher dimensional frequencies. Stone, rock holds dimensional frequencies. The telluric forces of the second dimension held in rock and stone holds the dimensional frequencies, which is handy when a planet is going through conflict and turmoil. You need help to assist yourself to hold those frequencies, which is one of the reasons why I sell the Tesla pendants and the Tesla technologies. It's sort of like having a pyramid around you all the time to help you hold the higher dimensional frequencies. So having these temples to hold these higher dimensional frequencies is handy when the planet's going through shit, so to speak, as well as to stabilize the planet as it journeys through the galaxy into and out of the photon band, which is a massive band of photons that our planet revolves into and out of every 26,000 years. And if you study the Mayan calendar and the Mayan teachings, etc., you can read more about that. And there's lots of different channeled extraterrestrial books about that. Anyway, and the temples that hold light are very handy tools when your planet is in the galactic night phase, basically when you're out of the photon band, and duality reigns supreme, which is what we have been in for quite a while. So, the Egyptians benefited from the energies that the pyramids hold and that connect one to and help an initiate activate and hold on to their light body. A light body field that every human and every creature, every animal, every plant, etc. has, but is not necessarily active. It's active in all nature. It's not necessarily active in humans. But so anyway, but who really built the pyramids? Like, who specifically built the pyramids? Well, the pyramids and the Sphinx were built by beings from the Sirius star system, designed to hold open the geometric portals of the stars while planet Earth travels in the dark night of the photon belt. They first built the Great Pyramid in 10,800 BC and then rebuilt it in 2450 BC. Casing it with white limestone and installing portals that look directly towards the stars of Orion. Hence why Egyptologists think that the pharaohs did it. Well, the pharaohs didn't do it. Pharaohs might have done some work on them. They certainly recarved the Sphinx head, which was eroded by water. That's a whole other story. Anyway, you can read more about that in the Orion Mystery, Unlocking the Secrets of the Pyramids by Robert Bauval and Adrian Gilbert. And understand that, hey, 10, 20,000 years ago was a whole lot different climate in Egypt. And apparently, according to Robert Bauval and Adrian Gilbert, the Syrians installed a seer who stares out at Orion to hold our Syrian cellular memories of our galactic origins that began in the star system of Sirius, in the Lyran system, in the Earth records, until we activated the planetary telluric field, which happened during the 1987 harmonic convergence, and relinked the Great Pyramid with the galactic center of Alcyone. We have our normal sun, and then of course we have our galactic sun of Alcyone. And anyone who was around and engaged directly with the harmonic convergence, as I was, knows how immensely powerful that planetary activation was. I was in Sedona, Arizona during the harmonic convergence, engrossed in a week of ceremony amongst the energy vortexes of Sedona, which are amazing. If you've never been to Sedona, Arizona, you got to go there. And anyway, we have been traveling in the galactic night since 8800 BC and playing out the games of duality. But the light activation of the harmonic convergence and the Great Pyramid are blooming our planet into the flower it truly is from the seeds sown by the Syrians in 2450 BC, when the Great Pyramid was realigned to Orion. And according to the Pleiadians, channeled by Barbara Marciniak in her book Earth, Pleiadian Keys to the Living Library, the pyramids and temples were built around our planet in ancient times to serve as cosmic libraries, because stone holds frequencies. Stone holds the records, holds the history, as it were. Temples were designed geomagnetically to capitalize on the energy flow of a certain location to store the totality of what the tribal wizards or the shaman wizards of the time knew and transmitted telepathically into the stone. Information that could be accessed by spiritual initiates, specifically formulas for higher consciousness, to ascend one's consciousness above duality. Many alternative-oriented spiritual people have had amazing spiritual experiences at these temple spaces, like myself in Sedona, but that's not a temple space, that's kind of just a natural formation, from what is stored in these stone structures that also utilize electromagnetic earth powers. Hence why temples and stone circles are always placed smack dab on ley lines, which are the sort of life meridians of our planet. They're like light lines. That's what ley means, is light. They're light lines that crisscross all over the planet. The Great Stone Circle of Avery was used as a dimensional doorway for various star systems, especially Sirius, the Pleiades, and Arcturus. And these stones were placed in certain geometric and geomagnetic positions to draw these stellar energies and help us remember our cosmic origins, as well as to receive information from these star systems. Basically, to open up the channel and tune to the right frequency like a cosmic radio. These temple sites not only offered a deeper stellar and dimensional connection, but offered the energy of fertility, because they connected people to the source of creation. And couples during those times would come to certain power sites to make love and conceive, and create very energized new life, energized by these temple vortexes. They were energized by star frequencies. Other locations were designed as broadcasting and receiving stations, sort of like cosmic radio stations, cosmic communication centers, as well as cosmic calendars to read the future, so to speak, and expand reality. As humanity reawakens, we will remember the importance of temple sites to facilitate an easier expansion of consciousness and even build new temple sites and renew old temple sites. The religions have used this same principle and have built many of its cathedrals and mosques on energy vortexes. Often they built over temple sites that were, of course, on ley lines, and often where ley lines cross. And of course, the cathedrals built with stone are the most potent temple spaces. And perhaps at least some of them are holding the best intentions of some pure hearts associated with those religions. So the Syrians are the temple light masters that hold the six-dimensional geometric light body of Earth in form, or Earth's Ka body. The ancient Egyptians came from Sirius to teach temple technology and sacred geometry, which is the essence of creation itself. Hence why I also sell sacred geometry jewelry to reconnect you to, your galactic origins and how creation works, because sacred geometry is all about how creation works. And why I've been interested in sacred geometry for most of my spiritual life and used to teach it. You can study the basics of sacred geometry from Drunvalo Melchizedek's books, The Secrets of the Flower of Life, and you can read about sacred geometry on our website, and even bless yourself with amazing, powerful sacred geometry jewelry and structures that are on my website. And there's also much bigger, amazing sacred geometry structures you can get from the people that I get them from. You can check out a lot more of those geometries specifically made for temples at template.org. That's thetemplate.org. So, great beings from the Sirius star system built the Egyptian pyramids, but why did they come all that way, roughly 80 light years away, to do that? Why would they be so interested in Earth and us primitive humans? Well, that's because the Syrians and other ET beings are our galactic parents, because the human race came from the stars, literally. We did not evolve on this planet. We did not come from some childishly derived thing called Eden. Anyway, that's another story and another explanation. According to the Syrians, through Sheldon Neidl, the author of We Are Becoming Galactic Humans, our origins began roughly 10 million years ago on the fourth planet in the Vega star system. We originally evolved from an aquatic primate species whose evolution was accelerated and genetics altered, specifically to become a galactic guardian species, to become a species that would essentially hold the light specifically for planet Earth, but also for the entire galaxy as well, because of course those humans wouldn't just exist on Earth, they would exist elsewhere as well. Because originally our planet and our solar system was set up by the spiritual hierarchy to be a planet of great diversity, a kind of Garden of Eden, if you will. That's the real Garden of Eden story, where numerous species could evolve and rise to high levels of awareness. But planet Earth was colonized by two non-human civilizations, a reptilian civilization and a dinosaurian civilization, originally from the constellation of Sagittarius and Orion, respectively. And even though these two species were classically domineering, conquering type species, nevertheless, this colony conducted itself quite peacefully and allowed a pre-cetacean species to evolve on this planet over the next 8 million years. And the reptoids and dinoids even assisted this evolving species to thrive and flourish. These three species lived in harmony for many, many years until word got out about this cooperative relationship on this planet of great diversity. But when the reptoid dinoid hierarchy found out about this peaceful cooperation, well, they were not happy about that. And the reptoid dinoid colony was ordered to destroy the pre-cetacean civilization. But at this point in their evolution, from support from the nice reptoids and dinoids, they had developed space travel and modern technologies. But the Precitations found out about the plan to destroy them and decided to do a preemptive strike against the dinoids and reptoids by exploding the fusion generators that were on the planet. And because of this, 98% of the dinoids and reptoids were destroyed, and the survivors fled to a planet that existed then called Maldak. And the Precitations fled in their spaceships to the Pegasus constellation and Cetus, while other Precitations decided to stay on the planet and escape to the oceans. These remaining cetaceans then evolved into the purely aquatic creatures that we know and love to this day, and who then stepped fully into their role as planetary guardians. Something that I have spoken about in regards to in another vodcast of mine about the whales and dolphins, etc., and how amazing they are and important they are. So here's where us humans come in. With the dinoids and reptoids gone, the Precitations and the Earth's spiritual hierarchy then began to search the galaxy for a species that was evolving that could become a land-based Earth guardian species. And after searching the galaxy for around 3 million years, you got to be patient when you're a galactic creator. So after searching the galaxy for around 3 million years, they found an aquatic primate species that was evolving nicely in the Vega system. And this species was then genetically altered to become the vegan humans, not vegan humans, but vegan from Vega, who are to this day, or more, a more evolved human species than we are today. The human species then thrived and flourished and became a galactic guardian species designed to maintain the light amongst the general darkness represented by the dinoids and the reptoids, who pretty much were spreading across the galaxy. This occurred roughly 5 million years ago, and by the time of around 2.5 million years ago, humans had spread out, colonizing the entire galaxy. And at this time, the Galactic Federation, which is a federation of beings similar to the Federation of Planets on Star Trek, at this time, the Galactic Federation had been created, which basically is a federation of species created in defense against the Reptoid-Dinoid Alliance, but also to continue spreading love and light throughout the galaxy, to balance out the darkness, so to speak. And more recently, the Federation, the Galactic Federation, has kept the Dinoid-Reptide Alliance at bay with love and light, but also, defense-wise. Whereas previously, there were many, many wars and dramas for literally millions of years. Now, at this point in time, as humans were spreading across the galaxy, the Earth's first human colony was established on a continent called Hibernia, as well as on the planet Mars and Venus that were, at that time, habitable planets. This civilization, these colonies, lasted about 1 million years and was based around a complete Lyran Syrian type of very enlightened civilization. But hey, don't forget about our friends, the dinoids and reptoids, who had survived the war with the Precitations, who were marooned, so to speak, on the planet Maldak that was positioned between Mars and Jupiter. And when the dinoid group later returned to our star system to assist their brethren about 1 million years ago, they found that the humans now controlled the entire solar system. Well done, humans. And very little remained of the dinoid-reptoid colony and alliance. They then decided it was time to reassert their dominance in our solar system and proceeded to systematically destroy the small human colonies on Hibernia, Mars, and Venus, which left Mars in its current desolate state after destroying its atmosphere and its hydrosphere of oceans, rivers, etc., and which turned Venus into an unlivable planet whose atmosphere was turned into its current acrid gaseous state. And all humans on Earth were destroyed, and for the next 80,000 years, the Reptoid and Dinoid Alliance ruled supreme. However, off-planet, the Galactic Federation was pushing back the Reptoids and Dinoids, and a plan to get rid of the Reptoids, Dinoids on Earth was created. The Federation of Light then brought in a battle planet to destroy Maldek and the Chief Administration Center of the Reptoid Dinoid Alliance. This battle planet later became known as the 10th planet, aka Planet X, aka Nibiru, which is written about extensively by Zecharia Sitchin, and of course talked about in many of the ET channel books like the Pleiadian Agenda, etc. After the destruction of Maldek, the Earth-based reptoid dinoids were quickly destroyed, and the Lyran Syrian-based human civilization with democratic principles was established on the continent of Lemuria, which was then situated in the South Pacific. This Lemurian civilization was established approximately 900,000 years ago, and this Lyran Syrian love and light-based civilization thrived and spread across the planet for the next 850,000 years and set up many daughter empires on the many other continents on Earth. Mainly, of course, Atlantis in the Atlantic, as well as the Yu Empire in what is now central China and Tibet, and the Rama Empire, which is now India. And, of course, the Mayan civilization, which encompassed pretty much the entire Americas, north and south, as well as the Libyan Egyptian Empire, which encompassed Africa and many other empires during and the post-Lemuria times, such as the Agartha network, the Agartha Empire, which is a subterranean civilization that was created after the demise of Lemuria, as well as Ionia, also a post-Lemuria civilization on the European continent, and the civilization of Sumeria. So, Lemuria functioned as the mother empire of its daughter colonies. But at some point, the Atlanteans had developed a more elite, hierarchical, aristocratic civilization, and they desired to become the grand rulers, to be the grand poobahs, and be basically the Queen Empire. And over the next 25,000 years, Atlantis began building relationships with renegade colonies that existed in the galaxy, specifically in Alpha Centauri and the Pleiades, colonies that were basically not wanting to play nicey nice and be a part of the Galactic Federation and so forth. And with those renegade civilization colonies' help, the Atlanteans devised a plan to destroy the continent of Lemuria. They accomplished this by taking one of our then 2 moons, yes, we used to have 2 moons, and moving one of those moons to a critical point above the atmosphere, above Lemuria, and then they exploded this moon, raining an incredible shower of meteors upon the Lemurian continent. You can imagine what that would have done to the continent. This created a massive volcanic catastrophe that caused the great gas chambers underneath Lemuria to implode. thus sinking the Lemurian continent and destroying Lemuria's dominance on planet Earth. The remnants of Lemuria can be seen by underwater sonar soundings, including vast mountains and valleys, but its destruction was so complete that it literally became mere myth and legend. So with Lemuria destroyed, Atlantis was now fully empowered, or so they thought, to exert their dominance upon all of the other former daughter empires of Lemuria. So not only was the human race imported onto this planet by extraterrestrials, most of the animal life and plant life was also implanted here. Everybody's a starseed on this planet, even the animals. And this has occurred many times due to the many wars that have devastated this planet. And our biosphere has had to be reestablished many times. So now, back to the pyramids. The pyramids and Sphinx were built during the heyday of Lemurian Atlantean civilizations, about 400,000 to 25,000 years ago. And due to the countless conflicts between Lemurian loyal daughter empires that existed in the European areas, etc., Africa, and the subsequent destruction of Atlantis and the Great Flood, many pyramids and temples were damaged or destroyed and then rebuilt by more modern Egyptian pharaohs. Because after Atlantis destroyed Lemuria and began to exert its dominance, the daughter empires were required to submit to Atlantean aristocratic elite control. But many empires resisted, mainly the Yu Empire in the area that we know known as Mongolia, who had to go underground basically to survive the Atlantean military, and who formed the underground kingdom that still exists to this day, called the Agartha network, the Agartha Empire, also known as Shambhala. If you study ancient scriptures, not biblical scriptures, but ascended master kind of channeled scriptures, you'll read about Shambhala and the ascended masters that reside there. And anyway, so they built the Agartha network in Shambhala to maintain the Lemurian, Lyran, Syrian legacy, and the Syrian way of more spiritual balance, with the vision of one day returning this guardian galactic civilization back to Earth's surface. And this Agarthan civilization that I was speaking about has existed in subterranean cities all around this planet, on Earth, underground Earth, for the last 25,000 years, since Lemuria. The Mayan pyramids were also built during this Lemurian Atlantean time, as Lemuria had established the Mayan daughter empire in that area. And if you study the many alternative archaeologists, such as Rex and Heather Gilroy, you soon discover that there are pyramids and temples built all over this planet, including North America, South America, and of course in South America, as we all well know, but also in the South Pacific and Australia. And of course, the South Pacific, those ones are remnants from Lemuria. And in Australia, as I mentioned. And I have personally seen and photographed Egyptian hieroglyphs on rocks in the Woy Woy area, north of Sydney, Australia. Those pictures are on my website. I also have seen a photograph of what remained of a pyramid in the Gympie area in Queensland, that was basically dismantled by colonists. They probably thought they were built by Aboriginals or something. And that pyramid supposedly, according to a book that I read, I can't remember the title of that book, but it was all about the pyramids of Australia. And it supposedly had a golden capstone that the local people obviously snagged that, didn't they? Additionally, there is or was another pyramid in the similar area of Gympie in Queensland in the Rainbow Beach area on military land that a friend of mine has personally seen when he snuck in to the military base, which I think he did that about 30 years ago. So I don't know if that pyramid still exists, or maybe the military have protected it. Anyway, and countless artifacts of Egyptian, Sumerian, etc. origin have been found in Australia, which you can read about in Rex Gilroy's books. That is kept secret. All those things are kept secret. Some of them I think are in some sort of museums, but you don't really hear about it, and certainly not discussed by archaeologists. And there are also pyramids in China that are larger than the Great Pyramid. Yeah, you heard right, folks, which were built during the Yu Empire that I mentioned earlier. Built during the Yu Empire days, which of course then became the Agartha network. And these are located in the Shaanxi province, northwest of the ancient capital city of Xi'an. Also in the Guangzhou, hope I'm pronouncing that right, the Guangzhou Plains near Xinyang. Sorry, Chinese people, for my terrible pronunciation. And this area is called the Valley of the Pyramids. But you don't hear about those pyramids, do you? No. Not unless you watch some really far out archaeology documentaries. But personally, I've never even seen a documentary that showcased the Egyptian pyramids. And there are also pyramids in Bosnia near the town of Visoko, as well as Japan and the remnants of an ancient civilization underwater in Japan. So what happened to Atlantis? Well, when Atlantis started exerting its control over the still loyal Lemurian daughter colonies, and there were, of course, countless wars and conflicts that ensued over the next 10,000 years. And Atlantis was getting tired of those resistant, recalcitrant former Lemurian colonies and was plotting drastic moves to once and for all destroy all resistance to its dominance, as domineering civilizations always love to do. But there was much civil unrest amongst the Atlantean ruling elite, who a lot of them were tired of conflict. They wanted peace, especially from the younger generation, who believed that Atlantis to be a failure as a civilization and desired to return to Lemurian values. And these rebels were exiled to Ionia, which is now present-day Europe. These rebels then began to recreate a Lemurian democratic civilization that was named the Osiris cult. Osiris, as in the star system Sirius, in honor of the Sirius group that established the first human Lemurian colony. And the Atlanteans decided it was time to just get rid of those rebels once and for all. But the Ionians obviously had their spies, caught wind of their plot, and staged their own plot to destroy Atlantis, which they did by destroying some of the crystal temples that held up the firmament, which was a crystalline water protective layer in the ionosphere above this planet that protected our planet from cosmic rays and maintained a steady temperature and peaceful environment for the entire planet, because there was no, and facilitated no drastic climatic changes such as cyclones and tornadoes, etc., that we have today. And the plan was just to just knock a hole in the firmament to flood just the continent of Atlantis. Unfortunately, that was a wrong move, and when they knocked out a few of the crystal temples, then the entire firmament began to collapse, and the entire firmament basically rained down the massive amounts of water over most of the planet, and they did accomplish their feat to destroy Atlantis, but they destroyed themselves as well. And you can read about the specific details of that historical saga in Sheldon Neidl's book, You're Becoming a Galactic Human. And I have detailed some of that history in my audio book called E.T. Human History. But unlike Lemuria, there are remnants of Atlantis that can be seen underwater around the Canary Islands, off the coast of Spain, as well as the coast in the Bahamas and the Antilles region around Cuba and Puerto Rico, as well as off the coast of the Carolinas in the U.S., but these areas have not been revealed and are really kept secret by the government. The Great Pyramid of Egypt holds the records of Lemuria in a special secret room, apparently, near its base, that may one day be revealed. Dun, 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 dun. And the Agartha cities maintain the Lemurian group governance type of civilization that one day will be shared with humanity when we're ready, when humanity's ready for peace and love and done squabbling over who's right and who's wrong, and squabbling over resources, and squabbling over who's the biggest and best and who got it right religiously, etc. And India still holds some degree of this Lemurian Syrian perspective, at least spiritually, as the Rama Empire was established by the Agarthans in an attempt to reestablish a cooperative Lemurian-style civilization in that area. It was established as one of the major spiritual centers on the planet, like Egypt and the Mayan civilization, based upon Lemurian spiritual science. And other spiritual places of note were the island of Sri Lanka and Hawaii, of course, which is the last remnant of Lemuria. There are many remnants of the Rama Empire in the Indus River Valley that contained a Lemurian daughter civilization, and then later a Agarthan civilization that had built many temple sites in that region. And of course, Easter Island was established by Lemuria as a scientific information transfer station between South and North Lemuria. And as an interesting aside, the various South Pacific languages have their roots in the ancient Lemurian tongue, which is noted by words made up of short syllables, where different combinations of syllables form many different words, similar to the other ancient languages such as Hebrew and Sanskrit, and similar to my own name, which is made of 3 distinct syllables. It's very much Lemurian and galactic in nature. So my name is 3 syllables, ZaKaiRan. Individually, these syllables have their own meanings. You can read about that meaning on my website if you like. And if you put just 2 of those syllables together, it makes one word and meaning. And if you put 3 of them together, we have a completely different word and meaning, which in my case, I translate to mean one who reminds others that they are God, which of course is what I do. So, during the heyday of Lemuria, this planet was littered with temples. Lemurian, Lyran, Syrian civilization is based around temple spaces that have many functions. I briefly mentioned the crystal temples that held up and maintained the firmament, which of course it was destroyed to destroy Atlantis, but there were countless uses and functions for temples that were built around the union of spirit and science. Did you get that? The union of spirit and science. That's why the extraterrestrials are so advanced, because they don't separate the two as our scientists do and as our religionists do. A concept that today's scientists typically miss entirely, because scientists typically believe that spirituality is separate from science, and if you can't see it, it can't be real. And then, of course, the religious people kind of poo-poo science and evolution, etc. Anyway. But many scientists are awakening and having the courage now to blend spirituality with science and be more unlimited in their thinking, which is really the true essence of science. Temples were typically built upon the energy grid lines, aka ley lines, as I've already mentioned, of our planet, which are essentially the planet's energy meridians. Temples were typically built on ley lines which are the largest of the many energy lines that crisscross our planet, and were often placed at the intersections of two ley lines. They built the biggest and the most powerful temples, such as the pyramids, on the most powerful energy vortexes. And they built smaller temples and pyramids. They were built as energy support structures. And these energy vortexes that these temples were built upon were used because they are very energizing and invigorating. And the crisscross points, and they're very energizing energy points. And these energy points are powerful tools to use as a way of communicating through the veils to higher dimensions, to raise your vibration, hence why temples and churches and so forth are built upon them. Or taking that even further, as in the case of the Great Pyramid, as a way of receiving higher dimensional knowledge and awareness. Spiritual enlightenment, but also physical light body ascension and multi-dimensional activation. Temples were used to invigorate the mind, body, and soul spiritually and and designed to reconnect us to our galactic and spiritual as well as extraterrestrial origins. Kind of similar to what churches are designed to do, to connect you to God. Or as I describe it in my teachings, temples are designed to connect us to our multidimensional source nature. But we don't even need temples to do that. I don't need a temple to show people and train people how to do that. Hence, one of the reasons why I channel multidimensional frequencies through toning and light language. So that temple-based spiritual focus was later adopted by the religions of today. And many churches and cathedrals were built on the former temple sites, and that energy can be felt to this day. Now, I would be remiss in my galactic spiritual duties to end my dissertation here, because even though I've given you a Reader's Digest version of our ET galactic history, as well as temple and pyramid origins and ancient civilizations origins, it is important to describe how we were as a species during the Lemurian and post-Lemurian times, up until the global catastrophe caused by the destruction of the firmament when the Ionians wanted to destroy Atlantis, and how this negatively affected our human bodies. So, as previously described, humans have been around for millions and millions of years. And ancient civilizations lasted millions of years. And galactic species and civilizations have existed and thrived and grown for millions upon millions of years. Our human story essentially began 35 million years ago. and even more recent Earth civilizations, especially Lemuria, lasted almost 1,000,000 years. And subsequent Atlantean, etc. civilizations lasted from about 400,000 to 25,000 years. And the final third phase of Atlantis lasted 5,000 years. So how come old civilizations lasted so long? And yet our human history is noted by civilizations only lasting thousands or even only hundreds of years. Well, the key factor here is longevity, because prior to the destruction of the firmament, which caused the Great Flood, humans lived thousands of years, not just decades. Because not only did the firmament maintain a stable environment on planet Earth with no cataclysmic events such as tornadoes and cyclones that could kill tens of thousands of people, it also invigorated our bodies because it stored within it prana, aka life force energy, which invigorated our bodies and facilitated extremely long lifespans. The firmament lowered heat levels on the planet, but it also lowered radiation levels that penetrate our planet from the sun's cosmic rays, which negatively affect our DNA. So prior to the destruction of the firmament, our human bodies were much taller and we had extremely long lifespans. The subsequent radiation and heat has shrunk our bodies and limited our lifespans. There are stories in the Bible of giants and people who lived hundreds of years left over from the pre-flood era. And prior to the fall from the destruction of Atlantis, the firmament, and flood, our bodies had the full consciousness complement of 12-strand DNA, whereas post-flood, post-firmament destruction, we now have only 2 basic helixes of DNA activated. So our consciousness and our bodies are way more limited than they used to be. Whereas when you have 12 strands of DNA active, your body is more able to rejuvenate itself easily and to be virtually ageless. For instance, Sirians in the star system of Sirius typically live 3,000 to 4,000 years. But instead of physically dying to end their life, they just simply ascend. They consciously decide when they have completed a lifetime and simply leave one reality to enter another. And according to Sheldon Neidl and other channeled sources with the help of the Sirians and Pleiadians, other beings in the Galactic Federation of Light, especially as our planet enters the photon belt, we will be assisted to reactivate our full spectrum 12-strand DNA, as well as an expanded 13-chakra system. And we are being assisted by the Galactic Federation because of the accelerated evolution in consciousness that humanity began in the 1950s on up to, and especially the advances that we made in the 1980s. Supported by Mother Gaia, the Sirians, the Cetaceans, and the spiritual hierarchy of ascended master beings and so forth of this earth, which also includes angels and archangels who asked for help to save humanity. Not necessarily from ourselves, but to guard us from possible planetary destruction as a result of earth changes and volcanic catastrophes, etc., as a result of entering the photon belt, which has typically in the past caused pretty cataclysmic earth changes, but also to protect us from dark force interference from reptoid, dinoid, and other negative influences. The Sirians have placed our planet in a holographic bubble to protect us from massive earth changes, as well as to gradually prepare us for our transformation into 12-strand galactic humans. Light body, aka Merkaba, activation is an integral part of this process, a process that initiates experienced during the most powerful spiritual training days of Egypt is described in Drumvalo Melchizedek's Secrets of the Flower of Life books, where initiates were led through shamanistic, magical, and fear-conquering initiations, and finally into the ascension chambers of the Great Pyramid. The light body is a star tetrahedral electromagnetic light structure that functions as an interdimensional transport vehicle as well as transmitting and receiving device. It's basically your vehicle of light that you use to go through the dimensions in. And this interdimensional transport vehicle transmits higher dimensional frequency to the 6-pair 12-strand DNA for physical rejuvenation, but also for full conscious activation. And the activation of the Merkaba connects you to the planetary as well as your galactic group soul, as well as one's divine purpose and specific spiritual and creative gifts. 3 things sorely lacking in humanity who has lost its soul family connection, as well as its unique creative individuality, and of course its galactic and planetary guardian nature and its extraterrestrial origin and connection to our Sirian, Pleiadian, Arcturian brothers and sisters. And a great many of us, light workers or light players, as I prefer to call us, were actively engaged in light body activation, especially in the 1990s, especially inspired by Drumvalo Melchizedek and the Merkaba meditation. Again, hence why I've got the sacred geometry jewelry, hence the template.org, and the teachings all about the Merkaba and light body. So, where are we headed as a species? As Sheldon Idle's You're Becoming a Galactic Human book describes it, as a species, we are becoming galactic humans. We are reconnecting to our galactic human origins. This is why humans and controlling forces are resistant to the concept of extraterrestrials, because believing in ETs opens up a proverbial Pandora's box where humans and governments, etc., must step up their spiritual game and accept the divinity and power of every individual, which makes the old games of power and control pretty much null and void, and will dismantle entire industries of control as humans no longer support these boring old limited games, which will instantly take a whole lot of money off the table and out of a lot of people's wallets, and the final realization that we are all in this together will become paramount to society's consciousness, which will facilitate a complete ceasefire as humans realize how idiotic wars and conflicts are, and we support each other's abundance and prosperity and stop just trying to steal from each other. The other massive matrix that humans are deathly afraid of being dismantled by not only considering that ETs exist, but that we were created by ETs, is the matrix of religion and the theopolitical control that continues on Earth at a rampant pace, basically to keep humans limited. And if you have been around a few decades like me, you would have heard the ET saying, hey, we're going to do a mass landing any day now. Which, if it ever happens, would shoot everyone's limited religious, spiritual, political, and relationship beliefs out of the water, big time. And this will cause a great deal of turmoil for people because no one likes their beliefs that they have been nurturing for an entire lifetime be brought into question. But in a nutshell, our current fragmented, control-oriented me versus them mentality is undergoing a massive paradigm shift to a more inclusive rather than exclusive-based reality. An inclusion into a galactic network rather than country versus country, race versus race, religion versus religion, etc. mentality. Because regardless of race, what race, color, gender, culture, religion, etc., bias anybody has, everyone is a human with the exact same DNA. We all came from the same source. Regardless if you believe a white-bearded man-looking God created us or ETs did. And when humans encounter ET humans that look similar to them and other ET species that look quite differently, well, it's game over, isn't it? Which is why people are just so deathly afraid of really believing that ETs actually exist, because they don't want their reality shattered. Luckily, the film and television industries and the countless videos and documentaries about ETs and, of course, channeled books are preparing humans and channeled teachers are preparing human race to transition into a more galactic species. And the transition can be easy and gentle, at least personally, for most people. And it's only the religious, political, and economic old world addicted zealots that will have a bad time. And standing by to assist humanity with this transition are people like you and me. For us, ETs are not really any big deal. They're just part of galactic life. They're just part of creation. And knowing our divine power as creators is just a given. And again, no big deal. It's a given to me that everyone has the complete power and freedom to create whatever they want, and everyone creates their own realities, because there's only one law in the universe, and that's the law of attraction. There's no such thing as assertion, where bad guys and bad things and evil forces can assert their evil will upon you. It just doesn't exist. That's pure fantasy. Makes great movies, makes great religious books, but it's complete bullshit. And the fact that we are all God's source in human and ET bodies is, again, just life, how reality really is, and it's really no big deal. Not such a big-ass thing. So where we are heading is a completely new civilization of complete allowance, love, and cooperation. That's where we're headed. Competition is out, it's old, and cooperation is in. It's a lot more fun to cooperate. And the only remaining competition will be in the form of sports and athletics, where it's fun to compete. But eventually it will no longer be any fun killing people for sport. It won't be any fun anymore eventually for people to watch people be killed. But even though we've been killing each other for the last 1,000,000 years plus on Earth and engaging in one war after another for the last 10,000 years, we don't need to feel bad about it, because those wars started long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away. And we're just kids following in the footsteps of our parents. And even though there have still been incursions on other planets in other star systems between galactic humans and the more dominating species, such as the reptoids and dinoids and other sort of, recalcitrant colonists. Well, they are few and far between, especially now. And they are kept at bay with love and light, backed up by defensive forces. Peace is currently prevailing in our galaxy, with over 200,000 star systems and star leagues becoming members of the Galactic Federation. So Star Trek literally is coming true. Thank you, Gene Roddenberry. Including many former darker-oriented civilizations and species that are now joining the Galactic Federation. Currently, over half of the entire galaxy has moved into the light. So we have reached the literal tipping point of light overcoming darkness on a galactic scale. And the Syrians estimate that within the next 100 years, the entire galaxy will enter the age of light and be able to ascend. The grand play of light versus dark is coming to a close. And we are being asked to step into our rightful place as planetary and galactic guardians, as the galactic human species that we were originally designed to function as. The question now remains for you is, will you step up your game and become the galactic human and planetary guardian that you truly are, that you ultimately signed up for, which is why you're here on this planet at this time? Will you welcome our soul family, our space family, our ET family, and help support your fellow galactic humans ascend to higher levels of consciousness by loving everyone unconditionally? Whoa, that's the big question. And showing them the way with your joyful, loving, empowered, and prosperous life. If you do decide to accept this mission, Jim, dun, 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 I guarantee you will have an absolute ball, because it will feel absolutely amazing to step into your divine power and connect to your source and your galactic guardian role. And we will never disavow your existence, no matter what you do, even if you get caught spreading love, light, and joy around the planet. Dun 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 dun. So, thanks for sticking it out for this entire podcast entitled "Who Built the Pyramids?" I hope that you enjoy your mission possible on planet Earth. I hope it has helped you broaden your perspective to consider your galactic roots, as well as answer a few questions about where our human race came from, as well as the origins of the ancient civilizations that seemed so great, especially compared to our previous barbaric human history. And it helps you understand where we've been as a species during more enlightened times, and why we seem to go into the dark ages after the flood, and where we're headed as we enter this new, more enlightened age of light. And I hope it helps you to understand your powerful position as a light worker, as a light player, and planetary healer to assist humanity's awakening to its galactic human divine nature. So you understand how important you are to the ascension process, to the expansion process, to the evolution of this planet. So now, should you accept this mission? Dun, 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 dun. Go out there and have fun and show humanity with the power of your example that the purpose of life is joy. The purpose of life is to have as much fun as possible creating fun stuff into physical reality. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I know you did, because it was freaking amazing, and it had, if you did, share it with your friends. Bless them with these amazing teachings. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, my podcast channel, The Master Keys of Creation. Come visit me at ZaKaiRan.com for tons more self-empowering goodies to help you become a conscious, deliberate creator of reality, to literally make all your dreams come true. But most of all, have a ton of fun on planet Earth. My name is ZaKaiRan, and I help you and anybody who's open to receiving remind you that you are an unlimited master of divine creation, and you have the power and the freedom to create the joy and the love and the well-being and the abundance that you desire. Thank you for watching this video or listening to this podcast, and I wish you immense joy and abundance on your magnificent journey of divine creation. And of course, remember to make life a holiday. Woohoo!